Hey, what's up, everybody? Of course, it is Tuesday,
Hi.
and that being with myself, Tara, and Allison. So, we are sorry. First, let me apologize. We were a little bit late. If you all watched the Sunday, you know we had some technical difficulties then. We had some technical difficulties today, but there's absolutely here. We still have a topic that we will be discussing today. What I just cannot wait to really get in. So I hope you all, since the last time you've seen us all together, I hope everybody, the past month has been really great for everybody. And we just gonna go ahead and get right into it. Yeah. So this month's topic about relationships and mental health. And of course, all three of us, when you saw us last time, personal journeys, that our experience helped us to, move in our purpose and begin to work in our purpose and what us is. And we all love to talk, and we all like to talk about stuff that's important, that need to be talked about. And right. This is why we decided to talk about this topic. So with relationships and mental wellness, let's see, Alice. Oh, wait a minute, my phone all loud. Oh my goodness. That. But we're actually gonna start in. My apologies if we're skipping when we did the show last month, we went into great detail about who we were and our backgrounds and everything. So below this video, I will link that video so you can go back and watch it. But we have plenty to talk about, so we're just gonna get started. Go ahead and do your thing.
All right. So I wanted to start off with a particular question related to relationships, and mine is how to process your feelings after leaving a person who isn't mentally healthy but doesn't want help. And one of the reasons I wanted to discuss this is because we do have a lot out here society-wise, which, especially towards women, where we keep hearing about the ride or die complex and seeing somebody through and building your man up and all these other things. I don't have a problem with those, but we don't talk enough about the fact that you have to build with someone who wants to build, and more importantly, who wants to build with you, and that you can be patient and understanding with someone who is dealing with a particular mental issue. But what do you do if you know that this person has a mental issue, a mental health issue, an issue that is affecting the relationship, but not only do they not think they have a problem, but they don't even want to seek help if they do know there's a problem? That is where you have to break ties, and you have to understand that to protect your mental health, you need to leave that situation, because that person, as long as they don't believe they're sick, they're going to keep infecting you because they don't want to get better. But what do you do when you make that decision? Because a lot of people who have to make this hard decision, one of the first things they feel is guilt. And so what I want to talk about is, if you know that the person that you've dealt with or invested in or loved, if you know that they have an issue that was hurting you in addition to them, I want you to start removing guilt from the equation. And one of the best ways that I found to help people do that is to begin to separate the behavior from the person. That's what has helped me in previous situations. Separate the behavior from the person, because then you don't feel like you're abandoning. That's one of the first things I will hear. Well, I feel like I abandoned him or her. I feel like I gave up on him or her. You didn't. You know what kind of behavior that you want to deal with, and you know what kind of behavior you don't want to deal with. So what you did was remove yourself from the behavior. Now, should that person decide to separate themselves from that behavior, then you guys, if you want, can try it again. But you're not abandoning them. You're not dumping them. You're not letting go of them or giving up on them. you are also reinforcing your boundaries that say, these are the behaviors I don't want to be around. And as long as you're attached to them by default, I cannot be around you. And so that was what I wanted to talk about. Anybody else have anything to add?
Thanks, Allison. I am Tiara Jackson. I'm super excited to continue this journey with Ruby and Allison. And we have just been talking for the last week about, our perspectives and our experiences, how they're similar, how they're different, and how we all have found our way through healing. I think you made some very valid points, Allison, as far as being able to separate the person from the behavior. And a lot of times we don't know how to do that. In my own experience, this, like you said, this ride or die perspective is we have to struggle with our mate and what they're going through. We have to suffer right along with them. And if we choose not to suffer, then we're not ride or die. We're not wifey material. We're not relationship material.
Right.
We're not loyal to these people, whoever they may be, because relationships stem further than just a man and a woman. I think that when you come in a situation and you don't have your boundaries checked, you start to allow that person's problems to become your problems. You don't know how to separate the two. You don't know how to be loving and supporting without being attached to that person. And so you find yourself in situations that you don't want to be in. And you also, as women, we find ourselves trying to fix this person's behavior for sake of the potential that we see them. They could possibly be a great mate if they didn't have, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,000 damn issues attached to them. So I think that it's definitely for women, because that's all I can speak for is women. Developing healthy boundaries before you enter into relationships and trusting your intuition when you see that red flag, when you see that that person is possessive, or you see that they're not, mentally well in whatever area they're not mentally well, they have an addiction or whatever that is. You have to recognize that behavior and make a conscious decision to say, I am not willing to go any further with this person, because that behavior ultimately is a detriment to my happiness, to my well, and immediately break ties, because you usually see those things early on when there's not an attachment. So it's easier to cut ties, but we disregard it. And then you're 6 months, 6 years down the line, and you don't know how to break the attachment then. So, definitely one of those things I think that is rooted in boundaries for sure.
Okay, so I guess it's my turn.
Yes, your turn.
Could just go ahead and repeat the time for those people that are just now tuning in that didn't hear it.
I couldn't hear you, Ruby. I'm sorry.
Oh, can y'all hear me okay?
Yeah, you sound better now.
Okay. I said for those just tuning in that didn't hear the question, could you repeat it real quick so they'll know what we're discussing and what we're talking about? Okay.
Yeah. So the question that I presented was how to process your feelings after you've left a person that you didn't want to leave, but you had to accept that even though they had a mental health issue, they didn't want to seek treatment, either because they didn't believe they had a problem or because they didn't care that they had the problem.
So from my input, basically with, I say you pretty much have to process the feelings first, or try to understand it from a different perspective. Because when you put yourself first and you process your feelings and why you're doing it, like, okay, even though I didn't want to leave and I didn't want to believe, they have some things that they have to take care of and that they still need to do, and it's possible that I may be a hindrance to that. You have to consider that as well. So if you think of it in that sense, and it's just like, well, it's my particular angle, as opposed to, an angle you feel like you're just kind leaving them out to dry, or you're just kind of abandoning them, because that's not what you're doing. You know, it's a better is for it to be this way, and also it's much better for you, because you don't want to get taken down through their with them. They're trying to deal with whatever it is that they're dealing with. So sometimes I just feel like you have to use your thinking in order to better understand or enter you have to do and why, and just try not to be so caught up in the, feeling like you're abandoning this person. Okay, now Tara, we're going to,
we're moving on. I simply chose topics that were closely related to my own experiences, being on both sides of the fence of dysfunctional relationships. So one of my first thoughts and question was, are you the toxic person in your relationship, and how to determine if your behavior is toxic? I chose that topic because for a very long time, I assumed the role of victim. I assumed the role of all of my relationships ended or were dysfunctional because of the men that I was dating and whoever they were in their respective lives. And when I was about 28 years old, so it's about roughly 10 years ago, I took a real thorough inventory of my relationships, every man that I had ever dated in any way, shape, or form, whether it was, a brief encounter or a long-term encounter. And I looked at the different characteristics of the men that I was dating or associated with. And I found that I was the common denominator in all of those relationships. B, I looked at how similar each one of these men were. They may have had one or two things that were different, which I would have called progress, because maybe he didn't sell dope, he had a job. Or maybe he didn't have an apartment, but he had a house. Or maybe he wasn't, driving his auntie car, he had his own car. But the underlying thing that stood out to me is all of these men were the same at their core. And if that was the case, then I needed to look at my own behavior, my own, my decision-making skills as it related to being in a relationship and really grasping a better understanding of the law of attraction. And what I was attracting in my life was very much who I was. And of course, it's not easy. It's not easy to be accountable. It's not easy to identify toxic behavior, recognizing that being so emotionally clingy and needy and attached to an individual and looking for that individual to validate you, to confirm who you are, to make you happy, healthy, and whole, that was toxic behavior, because I was entering into relationships single, in mindset. These men were not necessarily asking me to be in a relationship, but because I was emotionally unstable and unable to identify it at that time, I didn't recognize the toxic behavior. But once I had the ability to really reflect and go, wait a minute, healthy people don't stalk their partner. And not in a sense of stalking them, driving around and looking for them, but constantly, in their phone or constantly on their social media page or constantly being consumed with where they are and what they're doing and why hasn't he responded to me? These illogical thoughts that were transpiring in my mind, and then taking his behavior and making it about me. Taking his behavior and reducing myself down to I'm not good enough. I'm not feeling worthy enough. My self-esteem was low. If he wasn't complimenting me, I felt ugly. Those things that a lot of sisters I've met, unfortunately, feel like when you're entering into a relationship, this person is supposed to complete you. And you're not supposed to be complete, again, happy, healthy, whole, going into the relationship. And of course, that's a stereotype that's out there. I'm looking for my soulmate to complete me, and not recognizing that perspective is very toxic, because you are looking for this other person to fulfill things within you, fulfill a void within you that only you can feel, or fulfill,
right,
in your life. So being able to look in the mirror and be honest and be gut level honest about why you you have been the toxic person in your relationship. And that doesn't mean, or that doesn't absolve the other party of their own responsibilities, their own behavior, their own toxicity, but it ultimately has nothing to do with them. But we're not saying, and I'm not saying, that this person couldn't have been a bad person in any way, shape, or form, but it's still ultimately your responsibility to identify the parts that you've played in bad relationships and why these things are happening, and going back to the root of wherever you got your understanding of what a relationship looks like, feels like, and should be like. And so I wanted to bring that topic to the floor because I think that we fail to be accountable. You know, the word that we all hate. It's hard for us to look in the mirror and identify the traits about ourselves that aren't healthy. So Miss Allison, if you'd like to add.
I didn't even realize we had butted heads on that question. When I heard you say that, I was like, what? Okay, we are so freaking connected.
Different perspectives and being able to look at it from different angles.
I love that. So my perspective, and I'll just add to what I was going to say. I'll go to the next part because Tara just nailed the first part that I would have brought up. Another way for you to identify if you are a toxic person is to really sit down and think about why you do some of the things you do. Whether you're one of my brothers or my sisters, you know, if you're telling the person that you're dating, you know, if you're giving signs that it's more serious than you intend for it to be. You know, if that person is asking you to do something that you necessarily either don't want to do or are afraid to do. And so one of the ways to figure out if you are the toxic person is if you're constantly coming from a protective stance. If you're coming into a relationship like this, you're already the toxic person by default, no matter what you do or why you justify it in your mind for why you're protecting yourself. You're protecting yourself from a new person who's done nothing to you. So you're basically hitting someone. You're hitting someone new because you're mad that you didn't get a chance to hit the person who hit you first. That's toxic. There's no excuse for it. You have no defense. If you are that afraid of being hurt, you need to be something called single for a while. You're not necessarily, you don't deserve a good man or a good woman just because the last good man or good woman hurt you. If you're just going to hurt the person who's trying to love you, you don't deserve that. You're not entitled to it. And that's where some people also play victim, to Tara's point. Sometimes people play victim and say, well, yeah, I'm cheating, but you know, I was loyal before and that didn't work. But that's got nothing to do with the person you're with now.
Right.
Well, yeah, I know that I shouldn't be a gold digger, but I got tired of all the guys I dated before him, you know, using me for my money and living in my house and black. Okay, fine. Still has nothing to do with who you're dating now. So if you're still mad about what happened before, you need to be alone. I don't care that you're lonely. I don't care that you're horny. I don't care that you want to cuddle. There's a price tag for that. And the price tag is reciprocation. And if you cannot reciprocate anything except toxic behavior, hateful words, purposely withholding affection and attention and time, you need to be alone. So that's all I've got.
That was good. That was good.
Thank you, girl. Okay, now it's my turn. Pretty much, if you can't effectively manage your feelings and emotions, then that makes you a toxic person. You may as some others, but it does. And not always dealing with emotions just make you have a history of, like, maybe your mom was toxic. Then it's possible that you up in a toxic environment, it has affected you in such a way to you, and it may not, you know, stand out to you like it may be to other people. Probably want to go ahead and take a look at your history, see if those particular signs are there. If you are a toxic person, or maybe your mom was, and maybe your father was, or you don't know how to affect relationship is not magically go away. So you just have to learn to effectively deal with your feelings and emotions. And once you get to a point to understand what's going on and control your feelings and emotions, and not to blame it on somebody else for something, and to a relationship and not be that toxic person. So to determine if your is toxic, negative, I would really look at your feelings and your thinking. And so that's pretty much all I got on that particular for that particular question. Can y'all hear me okay? I'm gonna keep asking.
You kind of going in and out quite a bit.
Okay. Hopefully, I haven't seen 1 minute anything yet. Hopefully, I'm a little bit choppy. It's, good. I don't see anything, because y'all know if you watching the live video and you sound off,
usually say something.
Somebody will say something. Sure.
Okay, yeah. Somebody Katie said you were cutting out, but it's better now.
Good. That's what I was actually just checking from my phone. My question. Oh, and my bad. Let me just give a little for Happy, Healthy, and Healing for this month. We are the relationships and apologize for any interruption, difficulties. Yeah, this great. But hopefully, if we're cutting out during, you can watch during the clearer. Much. Okay, so far.
It's not good on my end. I'm catching maybe every 3 words.
Sarah, is it the same for you?
You cutting out on my iPad as you're talking through our Be Live, but I'm looking at you on Facebook. It doesn't look so bad, so I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Okay, well, I'm just gonna keep going. Hopefully, everything works out.
Okay.
My particular question, or the first one that I want to start with, is: do you have a talk prior to getting into the relationship about mental wellness or their mental and emotional state?
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I wanted to bring up it, because of course, when we all meet somebody new and we them up and have this list of things that, we want to check off. Are they financially stable? Do they want this? Do they want to do this? Do they have goals? Do they have this many degrees? Do they wear this size shoe? Do they do, what is their background like? But nobody really just comes out and asks, okay, so what's your mental state?
Right.
What are you dealing with? Do you know how to effectively deal with your emotions? Do you have a history of mental illness in your family? And it's like, seriously, tell me, what am I really getting into? And I feel like it's important for some, if you knew ahead of time that this particular person was bipolar, or the particular person was dealing with depression or even anxiety, is that something that you really want to take on? Especially considering if you've never had to deal with it before, somebody that's having anything mentally and while at them with everything you have to deal with emotionally. And then not only that, you should be willing to disclose that information. It shouldn't matter whether there once you know, put that information out there. We always want to talk about keeping it 100 and keeping it real. No, you need to keep it real about what your mental state is. Don't have me out here, thinking you one thing, and then we get into this beautiful relationship, and then all of a sudden things change, and now I'm sitting here like, whoa, wait a minute, what just happened? But you knew all along what your situation was. So my question is, do you have the talk prior to getting into a relationship about mental wellness? For me, in the past, I hadn't had that talk, but now that I'm more so into it, then I focus more time on the friendship building parts before, I really get into a relationship, and just ask. I may not come out and say, are you mentally ill? But there's a way to ask certain questions to get the information that you need, or to start the conversation. Because, that's another thing. We're not even comfortable talking about mental illness or mental health and mental wellness because we don't even know how to bring it up.
Right.
So I feel like having this one way to really start to have the conversation. Two, you can determine whether or not it may or may not be a deal breaker for you. And then three, it puts you in a situation where you're able to look at relationships and friendships differently instead of just jumping into one. From if you haven't even dealt with the last one, then it's like, wait a minute, let me pump the brakes on this one and just process this just a little different than I did before. Really, with that, because it was a short question, then there's really not a lot of explanation that has to go into it. But I still feel it's important that we have this particular talk along with everything else that we talk about before getting into a relationship.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, Allison, your turn to chime in on that particular question.
So, and I don't want to say this coming from a standpoint, I want to put this disclaimer out. I'm not coming from a standpoint of bitterness or anger or anything. It's just from a sense of being aware. And it's my experience that people will lie about this. And so I don't particularly have the talk, because I find that if you put someone on the spot like that, especially if they're also coming from the mindset of, I don't want people to know that I'm quote unquote crazy and I can hide it and I can do this and I can do that. And I don't want to be by myself. And I really like her, but if she finds this out, she's not going to tell me. Because of all of that stuff that people say, I ask other questions. I ask questions about childhood. I ask questions about previous relationships. I ask questions about, I may share a story about something that I dealt with that upset me to get their response. And a lot of times I just watch, because no one can hide but so long. So I watch how they handle having a really, really bad day. I watch how they handle if they don't get something that they wanted, if they applied for a job but didn't get it, if they went into a contest and lost. I watch those things to let me see, okay, so you have a temper problem. So you have a problem with entitlement.
Right.
Oh, okay. So you want to drink every time you don't get your way. So you could be an alcoholic. So I just let them tell me what I need to pay attention to, because I just don't feel confident because of the stigma, especially in the Black community. I don't feel confident that people will come out and say that they have a mental health issue or that they had a mental health issue, unless they've gotten to a point where they have actively and openly discussed it with people who accepted them, and they feel that they won't necessarily be shunned.
Right. I've been on both sides of the fence with this particular question. Dealing with mental health since I was about 15, alcoholism, drug addiction, having parents who were addicted to drugs. I learned to tell people about myself as a precaution. I'm healed. Let me tell you up front, as crazy, before we get into this relationship, as a defense mechanism to keep people away from me, also as a manipulative tool to make people feel sorry for me. But then on the flip side of that, as I got older, and I, wanted to discuss those issues with the men that I were dating, because I'm not going to say all men, but the men that I was dating, I found that my mental health and my background was used as a weapon,
Mm.
to manipulate, to control, to abuse, to neglect, and to abandon me, because I had already put myself in a position to say I am fill in the blank. And so because they were unhealthy people, instead of nurturing that and caretaking that and having an open and honest, conversation, it was a power play.
Mm-hmm.
It was a way to manipulate situations to their benefit. Um, and so I've learned, over the course of the last 7 years, in a very toxic breakup, but a very liberating breakup, that it may not be easy to have that conversation because there is a stigma in our community as it relates to mental health. It is seen as a sign of weakness. But I think that our intuitive spirit
Mm-hmm.
allows us to know when things feel off. If you pay attention to the relationship that a person has with their mother or their father or their siblings, that tells you a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I think that Ruby made a very good point. Not entering into any sort of relationship, even the getting to know you phase, um, without just being clear about what it is that you want and what it is that you're looking for, before you attach yourself to a person and attempting to have a relationship. I see a lot of times we just don't take our time. We rush past
Mm.
things that should be discussed, should be observed. Um, and then just being honest with where we are. And unfortunately, I think it's a hard conversation to have. You don't just say, hey, are you bipolar?
Yeah.
Right.
Without being offensive, um, but also being aware. And so again, it just comes back to your intuitive spirit. I think that we are taught to put our best foot forward when we
Mm-hmm.
meet people. And so initially, how much are you really getting to know that person, their authentic self, and not the self that they're presenting to you in the hopes of being in a relationship with you?
Right.
That sometimes as women, we talk too damn much and we tell too
Girl.
about ourselves. Uh, this whole disclaimer of, I just got out of a broken relationship. I ain't trying to go through that shit again. All of these things that aren't necessarily mandatory or a requirement for you to share. Because if you've processed a relationship, a breakup of a relationship, I don't think that you need to go into a new relationship saying, hey, I'm scorned, I'm bitter,
Yeah.
I was abused, I was this, I was that. I think that as time flows, the God of my understanding will bring situations to the table that will allow for that discussion to take place, not necessarily forcing that discussion to take place, and just believing a person when they show you who they are. If you are, attempting to get to know a man or a woman and they have a toxic relationship with their mother or their father, or, they, display signs that is behavior that you're like, no, I don't really subscribe to that.
Yeah.
You can't go into fix it mode, and you can't
Mm-hmm.
go into dismissing those things. And then 6 months down the line, you go, well, this is a deal breaker. No, it was a deal breaker out the gate.
Yep.
Allow it to be that out the gate. You just, you just can't fix people. You can't fix people. And you can't go into relationships trying to fix people. But I think if you pay attention, the signs are always there. You don't need to necessarily get out your pen and paper and start writing down, inventory of, okay, he's on a checklist. He ain't got this, check, 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 check. I don't think you really need to do that. I think you just need to pay attention to that person and how they behave in and out of your presence.
Right.
Now, while we're waiting for Allison, I just want to thank everybody for tuning in, even difficulties. But if you have any questions, please feel free to put in. We love engagement. Comment. Be sure to share the video. Hearts. And, you know, if you feel like anything that we're discussing, or if you want for us maybe in a later show to go further into discussion with the particular, let us know. I mean, that's why we're here. That's conversations, because these conversations are, and they need that note. I'm gonna go ahead and let you know, her next question or her next topic she wants to discuss.
Okay, so the next one I had was, why is it so hard to remain single after leaving a toxic relationship, and why do you need to do it anyway? And so I want to just bring up a couple of, you know, terms here that you can look up when you have time. You can Google them and you'll get plenty of information. But one of the things that you have to remember when you are in a toxic relationship is that what you think is love is actually called something, is something called rather a trauma bond. And trauma bonds are much harder to separate from than even love is. It's actually a stronger attachment because it happens as a result of the constant up and down that you experience, the constant back and forth. We get addicted to the drama of the breakup and then the makeup and then the breakup and then the makeup. We get addicted to those things. But when I say addicted, that's the word I mean. Sometimes we think that we're being figurative, but that's a literal thing. You can become addicted to that relationship just like you can become addicted to a drug or addicted to alcohol. And so you have to think about it as toxic relationships. They have highs that are higher than anything you've ever experienced, but they will typically have lows that have you thinking you'll never get better. And when you're at that moment, which is what typically happens when you do leave that relationship, you're going through something called withdrawal. You're going through withdrawal of that drama, withdrawal of the good and bad and the up and down and the highs and lows. And what you're feeling is that need of for a fix. That's why when people, for instance, with narcissistic relationships, on average, and you can, you know, look this up, on average, it takes a person 7 breakups to finally leave a narcissistic relationship. And this is one of the reasons why. It's because you get addicted to the hit. You get addicted to the hoovering and, okay, well, he or she discarded me, but now she's coming back and he's coming back. And this is exactly how it was in the beginning. And this is what I knew it could be. And then it goes downhill again. And so you're constantly going through that ebb and flow. And when you do meet someone who's healthy feels boring. Mm-hmm. Because you haven't given yourself the time to understand and unpack that what you dealt with was not healthy. And you have to retrain your brain, your mind, your body, your emotions. You have to retrain all of that to say, I don't want highs and lows and ups and downs. I want healthy, I want consistent, and I want stable. We say we want that, but we don't know how it feels. And some of us have friend zone men and women because they're giving us healthy love, and it doesn't feel like the love you're still addicted to. Mm-hmm. And so that's the reason I also say that you need to stay single anyway. It sucks. It doesn't feel good. You feel like you're losing your mind. You feel like you're never going to get over this person. And you have really, really bad moments. And all of that is withdrawal. And you have to be willing to withdraw from that toxic situation before you can begin to accept what it is, what it was, what you never need to be attached to again. And that way you can begin to reprogram yourself to be ready for what healthy and reciprocal love feels like.
That was good. That was good. That was good. That was good. Girl, I'm just into it. I'm like, let me take notes.
Yeah.
That was good. It's crazy. I didn't realize how similar our topics of discussion were. One of mine is how to process the breakup mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically. So it just, you know, piggyback right off. So I'm just going to put that all into one, my topic and my response to you.
Nice.
I mean,
right.
I love that you related it to addiction. Mm-hmm. I think sometimes we have a misconception of what addiction is. We think that it's definitely one of these things where you are physically addicted to a substance. And I learned about, oh my God, maybe 15 years ago, that there is something about the familiar pain.
Yep.
Become comfortable with
Mm-hmm.
the familiar pain rather than going into the unknown.
Yep.
And so when we start processing that breakup, because we need the hit, because we start yearning, the monkey is on our back, we start wanting to feel whatever it is that we think we feel. Usually it's based in illusions.
Yeah.
It's not reality. We have to go get that fix. We have, because we are, trying to process something that we don't quite understand. We don't quite understand that there is a physical aspect of breakup, an emotional aspect of breakup, mental and spiritual aspect of breakup. And I've literally only done that one time in my life. And I mean, go through the entire process of a breakup. More often than not, we go through the physical aspect of a breakup.
Mm-hmm.
You fight yourself to not physically contact this person.
Yep.
And time you become
Yeah.
with not contacting this person, but you have not processed anything from an emotional and mental and spiritual place. So if this person were to contact you, you're back into the same cycle.
That's right.
If someone comes along the way that is very similar or sometimes worse or maybe just a little bit better than that person, boom, you're right back in the same situation because you have not taken the time out to really reflect, really look at the relationship, look at your past relationships, be able to identify the similarities in all of these relationships that you've had. Look at where you're spiritually bankrupt. Look at where you're emotionally, mentally unstable in your life. Look at where were you when you met this person. Right. Usually, if you're honest with yourself, you were not in a great mental and emotional space when you connected to another unstable person. And so when you can get honest with that, when you can separate him, put him to the side and really look at the breakup in all these different areas, it's a lot easier. I'm not going to say that it's not hard because of you call it the trauma bond, the soul tie, being emotionally attached to this person and not knowing how to release them. When you get to the middle, the meat and potatoes of a breakup, it is painful, and it is the fetal position painful because you are attached, you are addicted. It's not even the person, it's the high, it's the feeling that you get. It is the delusional thought of what it means to be in love. Because love is not about being in an unhealthy space with someone, being emotionally attached to someone, being relying upon this person for validation and confirmation. And so when you can get through that phase, when you can get honest, when you can pray through, cry through, go through all of those different emotions to go on the other side of it, it's such a freedom. And then you can get honest about what it really wasn't. Like Allison said, what it was and what it wasn't. And a lot of times it isn't what we say it is. It isn't, and it's usually with women more so than men, because that's the only experience I have. We have convinced ourselves that we were in a relationship that we were never in. Not from his perspective. We may have been full go, but that party wasn't full go. And that's why, though, going back to the communication piece, that's why conversation is so important. Communication is so important, so you know what you're getting into. I believe that women have to take the time out to heal after these relationships. That is why we keep bumping our head, bumping our head, bumping our head, bumping our head. We're not processing the breakup. We're not healing after the breakup. We're not getting emotionally and mentally and spiritually well after the breakup. We're out here without any defense, and you're vulnerable, and you pick up any leech that comes along your way to stop from feeling the breakup. You have to process the breakup in order to move forward. Sorry.
Right. Okay, well, since it's my turn, and with Allison's question, which was why is it so hard to remain in a toxic relationship and why you must do it anyway. We talked about it a little bit, but connections, for me, it goes back to connections and attachments. When we have those, when we establish those attachments, we basically attach to those people. We need, in order to be happy, we have to be attached to them complete, like earlier. And we focus so much on the attachment that we don't focus on the connection. And then once you get ready to break up, it's just like, no, I can't let this person go because I've attached so much of my being, I've attached by a person. And just to let that go, I feel like I'm losing a part of myself. I feel like I've failed. I feel like I've lost something. And when you start, to form attachments instead of connection, I prefer to be connected to someone because it's okay for me to let that go because I'm not attached to them. But when you have these attachments, you build up such an emotional dependency on this person, a mental dependency on this person, a spiritual dependency on this person, that when it's time to move away from them, you really don't know what to do. So you want to go back to it because that's what you're attached to. That's where your life, in a sense, that's where you're getting your life from, your energy from. And that, to me, that's toxic. That's not healthy. But I think it's more so because, like I said, when we get into relationships, they're focused more on attaching to this person, making you and adding, doing those things yourself, being there and getting together with. So y'all know my answers be short and sweet and straight to the point.
It's Allison and Tara.
I just be like, it is what it is. Focus on connections and not attachments. But like Allison said, you have to do it anyway because the relationship is not benefiting you in any way, and it's down. Why would you even want? So now, Tara, you said that you put, when you respond to the question in with their answer, right?
I'm sorry.
Wait, let me say that. Yeah, I'm so sorry, y'all. My apologies. You said when you responded to Allison's, get your second question in with your answer, right?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So, Allison, well, Tara, if you can just repeat what your second question.
How do I
will just piggyback or your question, your second?
Okay. How do I process a breakup? How do you process a breakup mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically? Like I said, obviously a piggyback off of Allison's topic as far as why you need to remain single after a breakup. I just wanted to add to something you said, Ruby, and I'll pass the mic back to Allison. I think that when we say we don't know, because we become so emotionally attached upon this person and we don't know how to move forward, I think that we say, I don't know how to move forward. I don't know how to live without this person, because it alleviates you of any responsibility. It alleviates you of being for yourself. It alleviates you of having to do the things that you already know within the core of your spirit that you need to do. But because you're so dependent, and it's that internal battle of, what am I going to do without this person? You're going to live. What am I going to do without this person? You're going to become free. What am I going to do without this person? You're going to grow. What am I going to do without this person? You're going to become responsible and accountable for yourself. and the decisions that you make in your life. You're going to be responsible for your own happiness. And I think that that's hard for people to look in the mirror and go, I am the reason why I am suffering in my own life. I think that's hard for us. I know it was hard for me. It isn't as hard today. It's a lot better today. But there was a period in time where that was extremely hard to be able to get that gut level honest and be responsible for my own healing, my own life. Listen, process the breakup, process the breakup. Call it for what it is. And sometimes calling it what it is I was in a relationship and his ass was single the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's okay to say that. It's okay to say that, and it's okay to move on.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it is. Well, so what I'll say, I have a two-part thing. So for me, one of the ways to process the breakup, mentally, physically, spiritually, and emotionally, the first thing you have to do is nothing.
Listen.
You got to do nothing. You have to cut the ties. Don't believe the BS about I'm not mature unless I can be friends with my ex. I'm not friends with any of my exes. I'm not mad at any of my exes, but it's my opinion, and this is my opinion. A relationship, in terms of friendship relationship, the relationship is supposed to be a step above. So if you couldn't handle a promotion, why would I give you another role? So I don't do it. So having said that, you want to do nothing. Get away from them, separate for some time. If you have to block them, block them. If you have to forget their phone number or take the phone number, do whatever it is you need to do, because you now have to start the healing, and especially in a toxic relationship, the healing doesn't start until you're done. You can't heal. It's like saying that you want to get rid of your flu, but you keep hanging around people who have the flu and coughing on you. You'll never get rid of it. So you want to do nothing, because that's where the fog starts to lift. And when I say fog, that's an actual acronym in addition to how it feels. Fog stands for fear, obligation, and guilt. And those are the three feelings that keep you connected to a toxic situation. Oh, how am I going to live without him? And what am I going to do without him? And all I've done is try to take care of them. And well, I don't want to leave because they already talked about being abandoned and they're just going to see me like everybody else. All of that is fog. And you have to let that fog lift. I did the same thing when I was dating that narcissist. Every time we broke up, I'm sitting around the house crying, losing 10 pounds in 3 days, saying, how am I going to live without him? How am I going to live without him? And meanwhile, I had a job. I had my own car. I was paying rent. I had food in the refrigerator. I was already living without him. But that fog told me that I wasn't.
Right.
And so you want to do nothing. And then the second thing is no sex. Woo. None.
Oh.
0. Absolutely none. Because here's the thing. I don't care if you think that it's just a bodily function. I don't care how many times it's been desensitized and reduced to nothing more than orgasms between body parts. Sex is a connection. Sex is an energy exchange. The fact that you don't believe that doesn't mean it's not happening. It just means that you are being ignorant to the fact that you are attaching yourself to something that's potentially going to suck you dry. You have to keep your pants up, your skirt down, and heal without adding more energy into the mix of what you're already dealing with. Is it fun? Hell no. But it's necessary. And when we're talking about the fact that we want to be mature and grown, be mature and grown and say, I really want some, but I'm not out of the situation that I'm in. I'm not over it. I don't want to connect to another dude, but I'm still thinking about the other dude. So I'm just going to have to sit here and think about it. I may have to take care of myself for a few months. Whatever it is you need to do, but stop connecting to more people, because you are continuing to cloud the fog that you're already in. So that's all I have.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, thank you for that. And snaps for that. But basically with mine, how to process it, basically, it's simple. Take some time off. Of course, Allison and I did a show about things to do during the break, and that break being after you end one relationship and before you get into the next.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to spend some time doing some self-care, some self-love, becoming your own companion, learning how to be alone, not lonely, but alone. Get to know yourself better, process your feelings and emotions, look at what you've learned. And also we did a show about things, what not to do during the break. And some things that you shouldn't do is basically go on Facebook and put somebody on blast, put your business on Facebook, letting Facebook know, social media. Don't do that, because then of course you invite everybody into situation. He went to people from all these confusing you anymore. I mean, even more. And that's what you had at first. Now you got all this other stuff to process. Another thing that we said was definitely no rebounds. I mean, you haven't even fully were in. Why are you trying to, coming from one toxic situation right into care of yourself first, and it's just not take all of that and pass it on to the next person. So it's pretty much just when you're processing that breakup, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, you need to learn how and be alone with yourself mentally, emotionally. Make yourself feel I love you. Everything that you would want in a partner, do all of those things for yourself. Build yourself back up. Responsible up. Do all of those things by yourself, and just yourself the opportunity to process the opportunity. And really, what it is, give yourself the opportunity to learn from the experience. And that's all I got for that particular question.
Listening to you, ladies, I remember the first time I processed a huge breakup when I was early in my 20s. A queen mother told me, learn how to date yourself. Take yourself out to eat. Take yourself to the movies. Pamper yourself. Discover the things that you would want from a man by giving you yourself. A lot of times we have no idea what we're looking for because we can't give it to ourselves. We don't know how to recognize it. We don't know what it looks like or what it feels like. And maybe 24 months I was abstinent. And when I say literally date myself out away from the flowers, the candy, the sessions at home by yourself, all of that to be
right
more in tune with what I wanted, because what I wanted was what he wanted.
Yeah.
I didn't know what I wanted. It was whatever satisfied him. And so I think that that's a part of the breakup too, is really discovering, like you said, Ruby, discovering who you are. Date yourself. And when you do date yourself, ask yourself, am I somebody that other people will want to date? I just wanted to ad-lib there.
I like that.
Yes, thank you, ladies. Thank you. And thank everybody for tuning in, of course, for this particular month's topic for Happy, Healthy, and Healing. We are discussing relationships and mental wellness. And so far we talked about a lot. Again, questions below. I'm going to keep, apologizing for any technical difficulties. I've just, come to terms with the fact that any live that I do this Mercury retrograde is going to be there's going to be some interference, because it was the same way Sunday, but we're going to keep on moving. We have to say what we have to say regardless.
That's right.
Said, Tara, you good? Is that you? No, I just heard some background noise. I just want to make sure. My next question, how do you work through it once you determine that mental unhealthiness is a part of the relationship? The reason that I wanted to ask that particular question, or the thought behind it, is that, okay, you're already in a relationship and you realize, something's going on. If for some reason it hasn't just been said outright, okay, I'm mentally unhealthy or emotionally unhealthy, but like Allison said, you notice things happening, okay, they can't deal with their drinking, or they can't deal with this effectively, and you start, okay, once you see those, then what, and you want to work through this with them, they just one of communication, talk, and if you two can figure it out amongst yourself, talk about what the cause is, where, and as the one that with the person and that healthy, there's something that you're willing to handle. Don't, but you need some professional help, or as a couple, you need to get some professional how to handle it, or how to help them. They know how to deal with it, and processing it together actually, help to strengthen it, allow when it separates you. So in addition to talking about it and seeking help if possible, then also suggest things not to do, pretend like it doesn't exist, because I want it to become, and then later on down the line, you're even particular hole, and now you have to dig yourself out of that hole instead of just realize something with. I only do not suggest like it or numb the pain, drinking or text it away or trying any other way to just really. It has to be addressed. It has to you have, especially want to be with it. It's not just, okay, you know what, I'm washed out. And anything else that I wanted to add to that? I'm done. That's it.
Okay. Well, you're not gonna believe it, but my answer is gonna be pretty short.
Okay.
So what I would do if we, and again, the question that Ruby asked is, what do you do if you find yourself where you're already in the relationship, but now you're accepting that, or you're seeing that there are possible mental health issues? How do you process that? And so the first thing I would do is say to accept it and acknowledge what you're seeing. Don't explain it away. Don't justify the behavior. If your gut's telling you something's wrong, you need to accept that. Put the dream wedding and the dream of meeting the family or spending that first Christmas together, or put all that to the side and just halt and look at what's happening now. The second thing I would do,
right,
me, because of who I am, is research. So I would research some of the behavior I'm seeing to see exactly what it could be, what it might be, what it might not be. The next thing I'm going to do is confront. Now, when I say confront, I don't mean in a way that puts the person on the defensive. Just say, hey, babe, I saw that, A, B, C, and D has happened. And, I was concerned. So I did a little bit of research. And do you know if this happens to run into in your family? Do you know have you ever found out about these different things? And from there, in my opinion, you're going to end up having to do one of two things. If that person says, yes, I'm aware of it, and I don't have a problem with it. I'm not going to seek any help for it, and I don't want to talk about it again. You got to leave. We don't always have to make it a life-threatening situation before we go. You have to just go. Now, if the person says, no, I didn't realize that, could you show me some information? Show them information. Understand that you may still have to leave, but see if they're willing to take the extra step and see if they really are affected by whatever it is that you found, or are at least willing to go seek help to find out what it is. And so the third thing could be the person decides that they do want to get help, and they go get diagnosed by a psychologist or a psychiatrist, and they are taking medication. You now have to decide, is this something that I want to deal with the rest of my life? Because even people who take medication, they have moments where they're like, I don't want to take it. I don't like the way it makes me feel. I don't like that I have to rely on this to function throughout the day. And so I'm just not going to take it. It's not cured just because they've been diagnosed. It still is going to require consistent effort on their part. So if you decide to stick it out, you again have to be prepared to leave. And so when you find yourself in that situation, you just have to decide how much time you're going to invest in it. And if you decide to invest it, I got to say this, if you decide to invest the time and it's going along and they're taking their medication and they're doing what their psychiatrist is telling them to do, and then they make the decision to stop, do not walk away angry or bitter. Because if you're dealing with someone who has a mental issue, you can hope for the best, but you have to understand that it is still a process. So when you sign up for it, you are signing up for the potential that it doesn't work. You can't place blame. You can't be bitter. You can't complain about the time that you put in and that he wasted your time and she wasted. No, you made the decision. Stick to it. Understand that you stuck to it. Cry your tears. Be disappointed. Move on. That's all I got.
That was so simple, Allison. That was so simple.
Well, I tried, damn it.
Move on. I would say that if we find ourselves in a toxic relationship, more than likely, we have already became attached versus connected to this person some way, shape, or form. Sometimes people have mental illnesses that show their face or rear their head very early on. Sometimes mental illness doesn't look like what we think it looks like. So it's very hard to identify if you have a certain visual in your mind of what that person, what mental health looks like, whether it's bipolarism, depression, anxiety, alcoholism, drug addiction, sexual addiction, gambling, fill in the blank. And because we have this preconceived notion of what it looks like, I think we also have a preconceived notion that we can fix it, especially as women. So I think when you find yourself in these situations where it has reared its head to a point of you can no longer dismiss or disregard that there is something wrong here with this person, I think you have to stop assuming responsibility for their healing or for curing them, fixing them, or molding them into what you need them to be versus who they are and what they're suffering with. I think you can have compassion, you can be understanding, and you can be sympathetic, but there's a boundary that has to be there before you start allowing that behavior to be projected onto you, before you start allowing their illness to become your problem. You are not Dr. Clark or whomever, with this degree. And even if you are someone who has mental health experience on a professional side, it is still not your job, and it's a conflict of interest for you to try to diagnose and fix this person. I think that the communication piece is hard because we respond to the behavior and not the illness. And we again attempt to try to fix it. I think that it is your responsibility to put a boundary in place, to decide to. I personally believe in parting ways until that person assumes responsibility for their own healing.
Yep.
I don't necessarily want to take that journey with you if you are not fully committed to the healing process.
Yep.
Because that means that I got to deal with some stuff and be dragged through some stuff that I don't necessarily want to partake in.
Mm-hmm.
Picking up home improvement projects. I'm looking at the the fly. I don't think that it is our responsibility to fix people. I think that we have to release them in love. If you want to pass on some resources, if you want to pass them on to maybe someone that you know who has more, an unbiased opinion. I mean, that's even for me. Being a recovering alcoholic, I've had guys from my past reach out to me current day, and they're still struggling with alcoholism. And I will remind them of where the clinic, the hospital, the detox center, the rehab center is in my local area back home, but I don't allow them in a space that makes them feel like I will be their therapist. I will be the one that gets them through whatever it is that they're going through. I have to release them in love. Otherwise, I assume responsibility for things that I don't want to assume responsibility for, and then I'm the one who suffers. So I think that you put a boundary in place, and you decide what that boundary is, and you decide what you are or aren't going to deal with. Say hello, everybody. I am on with you guys tonight. Sorry. Yeah, that's where I'm at with it. That's all I have, ladies. I'm sorry. Oh no, Ruby's stuck. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Her face pretty though.
It is. I wonder if somebody tried to call her.
Probably so. Yep, we lost her. She should be coming back though.
Yeah. What's going on, Robin? Thank you for tuning in, Ebony. We'll be back in a second.
This Mercury retrograde is
really
giving us time this evening, but we're gonna get this. There we go. Hello, darling.
Hi.
Okay, it didn't pick her up on. Oh no, there it is.
Ladies, can y'all hear me? I'm sorry. I don't know what happened with my connection.
You with us, lady?
Yep, she back on. Oh Lord. I'm trying to.
Don't disconnect.
Oh, she's
talking, put you back.
There we go.
Yeah, ladies, I'm sorry. I don't know what happened. Y'all know about the technical difficulties, so I'm just gonna keep talking because it's still showing that we're still going. But I can't hear either one of you.
Can you hear her?
Right now, and I have no idea why. Hopefully you can still hear me.
I see
but I think right now is probably a good time to just go ahead and end this particular show, considering everything that's going on. And I know Tara has to get to her mommy duties because the Malik, the man, then stepped into the picture like, what y'all doing?
Right.
But yeah, I can't even hear y'all. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay.
We can hear you.
If y'all could comment below, because I can't, on my end, I can't hear anything. If y'all could comment below.
We can hear you.
Yeah, I can't even hear y'all. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. Okay. So, wait, let me turn my phone down because I know it's going to be some feedback. Because comment below because I can't, on my end, I can't hear anything. Because right now I'm having to listen to it on my phone and it's a delay. So, ladies, I'm sorry. I'm glad y'all still there, though.
Let's just
okay.
We're not
so
live.
Let me turn my phone down because I know it's gonna be some feedback. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm trying to look and listen and watch. But did y'all want to go ahead and just end it now and then probably do a part 2 next month? I'm sorry. I'm glad y'all still there though.
Yeah, I hear got it. Cause something in the background.
Let's okay, I'm sorry. I'm trying to look and listen and watch. But y'all want to go ahead and just end it now and then probably do a part 2 next month? I'm sorry. I'm glad y'all still here though. Yeah, I think that's what we're going to do. Y'all, I thank you all for tuning in and watching. But I'm going to go ahead and end this particular live broadcast. And we'll just pick up next month. So we thank you all for watching. I know Allison and Tara are probably dropping off right now. But again, I'm Ruby D, the Goddess Entrepreneur. And of course, we had Allison with Be Still and Move and Tara with Respect the Queen. But of course, it's Mercury retrograde. Again, my apologies for all the technical difficulties, but hopefully on the playback for most of the show, we got through everything that we wanted to discuss before it just completely went out. But what I am going to do is, like I said, next month we'll continue with part 2 so we can go through get to everything that we didn't get to this week. But what I would like for you all to do, if you don't mind, is if you have any questions, comments, or anything like that, to just send them to either me, Tara, or Allison. So then that way we can answer them or address them on the next show, or possibly add it to that particular show so that we can discuss it. But again, with this being Mercury retrograde, me and Allison even had issues on Sunday. But yes, Tara, I'm blaming it on the retrograde. That's exactly what it is. But we will be heard. Y'all gonna get this work whether you want it or not. But we thank you for tuning in. We really appreciate you. And be sure that you follow myself here on Facebook, as well as Tara and Allison. On Instagram, you can find me at Ruby D Artistry. You can find Tara at Respect the Queen. And you can find Allison at I Will Be Still and Move on Instagram. And as far as the website address, mine is thegoddessgrind.com. Tara is respectthequeen.com. And Allison is bestillandmove.org. So before we have any more problems, I really appreciate you. I thank you again. Next month, the last Tuesday of April at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 5:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. We look forward to seeing you then. Peace.